Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. For today's video, I built a deck around cards that I unlocked from the collection log today. So I was able to unlock 3 cards, and in those cards I unlocked Brood, which on reveal add 2 broodlings to this location with the same power. I unlocked Patriot, which has an ongoing ability. Your cards with no abilities have +2 power. And then I unlocked Polaris, who on reveal move up an opposing 1 or 2 cost cards to this location. So I built a deck around 2 of these 3 cards, but I wanted to pose a question to you guys really quickly. I recorded the deck making process, so I recorded the daily pulls, going through the process of building this deck, and I was wondering if you guys would be interested. It was about 12 minutes of kind of brainstorming, adding in different cards, kind of thinking through the different possibilities and what was beneficial and what wasn't. So if you guys are interested in that, I do have it ready. All I have to do is drop it in an upload, but I didn't feel like it belonged in the actual gameplay video because it drags it on a little bit too long. So with that being said, let's take a look at the deck that we built. So we named the deck Token Buff, and so the thought process behind this deck was to build a deck around making Brood good. And so Brood, whenever he's played, he adds 2 broodlings to that location. So he becomes 3 different cards in that lane. Now, just looking at a broodling of 3 power or 2 power for 3 cost, that is not worth it. You're flooding your lane for very low power minions. So the idea was to be able to buff him up so that it was worthwhile to play. And so we were buffing him up by playing Okoye and by playing Nakia. So both of these will buff cards in your deck and your hand respectively. So if you're able to play on both, the Brood becomes a 6 power minion, and it's going to duplicate 2 times. So it'll become an 18 power swing in that lane. So then it becomes viable to play, and you're able to almost play a mini Infinite with only 3 power. So you're able to do other things in other lanes as well. And then you can do some cool combos, like you can drop this and have a Moon Girl have it duplicated, so you can drop it twice in 2 different lanes. We have the Nova combo in there. A lot of cool variations to make this work. So I'm going to run through the cards really quickly, but that is the general idea behind this deck. So we have the Hood, which on reveal add a demon to your hand. The reason we have this card in our deck is because the demon card is a token. So the token is something that does not have an ability. So the broodlings, those do not have an ability. So locations like Washington, D.C., and our second unlock card today, the Patriot, will buff them up. So for Brood, that is going to buff up the 2 broodlings by +2 power for each Patriot that you play. The Hood, it's going to turn your 6 power demon into an 8 power demon if you have 1 Patriot. Same thing with Bucky Barnes. Whenever he's destroyed, what he leaves behind in its place is a ability-less token. And then we have Mr. Sinister, which does the same thing. On reveal, he adds a Sinister clone to this location with the same power. So the idea is that we buff these minions up, we drop them onto the board, we potentially play a Patriot, potentially do a Nova Carnage combo. I know, I feel so bad that I used it, but we needed to be able to control the lanes, and we have so many low cost minions in Okoye, in Nakia, and in a couple of these other cards that we needed a consistent way to clear that lane so that we can add more cards and get additional power in that lane. And so if you're already running Carnage, I just felt we needed to throw Nova in there, just because it is, even if it was a +1 bonus, that is going to impact your entire board, and I think it would be worthwhile at that point. So another card we tried out was Zero. Honestly, we didn't get a lot of use out of this card in the games that we played. I would tech this card out and put in Forge. Forge is something that I'm a little sad that I overlooked. Forge being able to, on reveal, give the next card you play +2 power. So this would be able to be played with a Brood, and so let's say we had used a Nakia on the Brood, it was 4 power. you drop a Forge and then play the Brood, that is going to turn that 4 power into 6 power, and that 6 power is going to be what duplicates onto the other tokens. So we could have gotten a lot of extra value just by switching that card out from 0, which was a card we didn't really get much use out of, into Forge. So in addition to that, the other cards are pretty standard, they're pretty staple. We have Moon Girl to duplicate our hand. We have America Chavez just to have a little bit more consistent draw throughout the rest of the game. We know we're not going to top deck a really expensive card. And then it also acts as a kind of swing. So if we need to play a big high power minion, because we have 3 Broods in a lane, we have 2 Mr. Sinisters and a Carnage, and we need to drop a big unit, this gives us that ability to do that on turn 6. So that covers the general idea behind the deck, and honestly, this deck piloted so much better than I thought it would. I ended up jumping like 3 ranks while playing for about 45 to 50 minutes, just because the deck was so consistently winning, which was a big surprise for me. But I am going to go ahead and jump into some videos. So if you enjoy the video, if you're enjoying my content, maybe consider subscribing. I'm going to be covering consistent Marvel Snap content, including deck builds, patch updates, meta archetypes, all things Marvel Snap I'm going to be covering on this channel. And if you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment. It really helps my channel grow, and let me know what you guys are thinking. So with that being said, let me know if you guys do want to see the kind of deck building process, because I do have that video ready. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into the games. I hope you guys enjoy. Hey, so we finally got into one. We had to reinstall BlueStacks the other day, and it's been really, really iffy ever since then. So I think we dropped the hood in the danger room, just off the bat, first turn, see if he'll maybe get destroyed. No, of course not. Why would it work in our favor? So we have Hellfire Club, and we have Okoye, which is perfect. We don't have Brood yet, so that's gonna buff Brood up so that we can make some big broodlings, and they're running an Okoye as well. So I'm really curious if this deck list is going to work, because it's kind of like a hodgepodge piece of work. And so now we have the Nova, which maybe I save the Nova for the danger room at some point. Oh, I kind of want to buff Sinister with Nakia if we get it though, but I don't think I can afford to hold it for that long. So they have Nakia, which is the perfect 2/3 drop turn when you're looking for buffing some tokens. Which, it's okay. And then there's our Nakia, which is just nutty. That'll buff several of these. I'll be able to drop Demon, Patriot. I can even do 0 into Nova if I want to try and buff him up further. It might have been beneficial to wait until I draw something like Brood, but I don't want to lose value either. I want to be constantly playing, and so if that means we drop him a turn early, then I think we do that almost every time. So now we do have the Moon Girl. It's turn 5. So do we do Demon into zero? Actually, no, let's reverse this. Since Demon already doesn't have an ability, let's do 0 into Demon into Nova. That way if Nova does get popped, at least we get some benefit from it. Oh, and that doesn't give us quite enough. Okay, so in that case we do that, and then we follow it up with that, Now let's drop him in this right lane. And that will duplicate our Patriot. What we can do next turn is we can drop double Patriot. And that will allow us to double buff our minions that don't have abilities. So that being the Hood, that being Sinister Clone, being Demon over here on the right lane. So they'll all get +2. If we do twice, they would get +4. We may actually just go with trying to drop Carnage in this left lane and hoping that he stays. Because we have this lane handled like pretty well locked down already. I think we do that. Oh, okay. Okay, so in our starting hand, we got Nakia and then we drew into Okoye, which is about as good as we can get, as good as we could hope for. So I'll drop Okoye on turn 2, followed by Nakia on turn 3, and then we'll kind of see what we draw into from there. Or maybe we wait for Nakia until we have more cards in our hand. That's unfortunate. So unfortunately, we did draw into Brood. So the other cards that we have being Patriot, Zero, the Hood. I think we still drop, I don't know, we have the +1 energy this turn. So I think we drop Nakia. That way we don't lose any, value. And then with Washington, D.C. being in this map, usually that's a very uneventful location, but with this deck in particular, we have a lot of cards that are going to get bonuses from being on Washington, D.C. So if we drop a Brood, it's going to get an extra +6 on top of multiplying this 4 by 3. So it's going to be a 20. It's going to be a 20 power drop. So I think I hold this until like the very last turn, and then it's really unanticipated. So it's hard to anticipate that drop. So I don't think I drop Zero anywhere. I think I maybe hold him for turn 5. So if we need to drop Brood on turn 3, then we do that if it looks like it's going to be close. Otherwise, we don't want to scare him off, so we may hold Brood for turn 6. And so there is our Carnage, which is good. That's what we need. I think I go ahead and drop him now, without waiting for Nova, because that's not necessarily our win condition. That's just in there because it synergizes so well with Carnage, and we need Carnage to be able to destroy some of these lower power bodies as we buff up the rest of our cards. And so that's going to leave a pretty powerful Bucky. And then if we draw into the Patriot, so this being turn, and do we even need to draw into the Patriot? So I think we have a really good shot, and we just drop Moon Girl this turn. Next turn we drop double Brood to fill up these 2 lanes and swing them pretty heavily. Because it's going to be 12 in this lane. It will put us at 15. So I guess if they have more than 5 power, that may be harmful. So we'll just have to see. I know that we'll be able to take the left lane with our 3 power Brood. So maybe we just drop the Brood in the left lane, and then they dropped a lot of resources on the left. So maybe we drop our 3 power Brood, and then we start buffing up the middle location as well. Because they're not going to anticipate us swinging this left one, I don't think. And so, what else do we do? So do we try and win that far right lane? We would have to overcome 7, and we can drop 12, but if they drop anything that has 5 or more power, which I think they do, I don't think they try and go in this middle lane. So I think what we do is we just buff up this middle lane a little bit more. And since it doesn't necessarily matter, I'm going to drop Mr. Sinister instead of Brood, because it's going to duplicate once anyways, since there's not room for all 3. And then I'm going to drop 0 just to get a little additional power in this right lane so that we lose by less, just in case there's a tie somewhere. So they did put resources in this middle lane. That, if it's a Devil Dinosaur as the last card, that may be enough to swing it for them. So it's a Mantis. That's not a good card. Not a good card for a finisher. Anyways, I can see it having specific uses, but... So then 2 17s. It's a massive swing. It's huge. Okay. With their 3 cards that they got to proc in drawing new cards, their collector got really, really close to matching our left lane, so I didn't anticipate it being that close. Okay, so we have Hood, we have Zero, we have Nova, and we have Carnage. So we have a really good powerhouse starting hand. I think we go ahead and start stacking cards in this left lane that are going to be fodder for our Carnage. So we draw 2 cards, which is not necessarily what we want to do. And none of those, if we had drawn like a Nakia, it would have been amazing. So I think I just drop kind of minimal resources. So we got 6. This is a computer, so I don't think they're going to have anything to stop my Nova combo from going off. I'm going to go ahead and utilize as much mana as I can. If I was afraid that they had armor, I would hold it. But it being a bot, I don't think that they do, or I don't think that they would. So this is kind of interesting. The Dark Dimension, cards played here are not revealed until the end of the game, or until the game ends. So I could play Brood here, and he would feel pretty confident knowing that I only dropped about 3 or 4 energy into the one card that I played. And so he may be kind of lulled into a false sense of security in that area. Now we're not going to get the buff from Nova, but that's okay. That's not like the primary reason that we run it. So do we? No, we can't. We don't have anything good that would impact 0. So next turn we're going to drop Bucky and the Patriot. And then on turn 6, we can do Carnage. We can do Mr. Sinister Carnage. Or maybe we need to just do Bucky Carnage, because we don't have that many. We will in this right lane, so it depends on how many resources he puts over into that right lane. So far, it being none, he has his Devil Dinosaur on the left. It hasn't been Moon Girled, so right now he doesn't have any, I guess, great combos. Now he may put a Nova Carnage in the far right lane so that it goes off at the end of the game. But I think overall, so I think we do go with playing the Patriot, but that would give us space to play. I think we go with the space instead, because that will buff at least these 2 cards we'll have a pretty strong lane here, and we can kind of push where we want or need. I'm also going to drop 0, because I'm kind of considering just drop... Oh, I should have dropped 0 before... no, never mind, not before Carnage, because it would have taken away his ability. So I'm kind of thinking that I may just want to drop Chavez next turn. So with the Nova buff, so he does have Moon Girl now. So what I would anticipate is a double Nova Carnage combo. And so what that would leave him with, if he was pushing that lane, that would leave him with so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then these two, so 9, 10, 11, 12 in this lane. Right now, we already have 12. So if we drop the Patriot, which of course right now 0 is impacting it, so kind of a negative drawback there. But depending on what he plays, we're going to need a big push. Right now, this is the only one that's going to gain it, and this one. Where do we want to push this? I think we drop the Mr. Sinister there. We drop the Patriot on the left lane. And the Patriot, of course, will buff up our Broodlings so that we'll have over 12. So I think no matter what, we win this lane. I think what our issue is going to be is winning these other ones. So we drop 4, plus we get 5, 6, 7, 8. That's one Nova for them. And then, actually, no, do I have enough time? No. I want to move Mr. Sinister over here. I think that would be the play, in being that I think they're going to put resources here. They're going to drop cards. It would lower Devil Dino. I think we have a better shot at winning this lane than this lane. So it's only a single Nova. Do we hold out any of the lanes? I think we hold out the left lane. We don't. And we push the middle. So with our Broodling in the buffs, we're going to have a bigger deficit. So we do pull it out very, very closely. Had we dropped our Mr. Sinister in the left lane, that would have been the +4 swing that we needed. It wouldn't have mattered that we lost this lane. Alright, so I think this one is a human. Hey, we get to test it out against an actual constructed deck. Okay, so we do get an extra energy this turn, or every turn, because of that left lane until we have cards in it. I think we go ahead and drop Bucky Barnes this turn. I don't think we wait around with Carnage. I think we just go ahead and send Carnage into Barnes. If we can. They may actually, if they have armor, they are going to play it this next turn, which will inhibit us quite a bit. So both players draw from their opponent's decks. That makes this so difficult. Now, hopefully they draw Okoye, and they don't realize that if they play Okoye, they're just buffing the cards that I'm going to draw. And we have double Moon Girls. We have unlimited Moon Girls. They'll keep duplicating themselves over and over and over and over again. So if we draw into like a Devil Dino, because that's what they were playing, that's actually pretty good. So I am going to go ahead and drop the Carnage. Do they have armor? No, they don't. They have a Bucky Barnes of their own, which now worries me that I popped our Bucky Barnes so early. But I wanted to guarantee that I would be able to get the combo off. So only one card can be added here. And so they already have two, and we draw their Carnage, so they're not going to be able to do that one either. So they already have two cards there. So I think I duplicate and then I wait until we get something a little more powerful. We just have to have more than 4 power. So they do have our Nakia, which they ended up dropping. So they'll buff, I think they have a pretty good sized hand. So they had 3. So then oh my gosh, we got their Nova. So how do we drop it? I think what we do is we drop Mr. Sinister. Actually, we can do it all this turn. We can do the entire combo this turn. And so that's going to give us a, what is it, a 10 power Nova? Or a 10 power Carnage? And then we have a pretty good lead in that middle lane. They drop Nakia and Bucky Barnes. If they don't have a way to kill that off, so if they didn't have like a deadlock in hand or something like that, then we have a pretty large lead. Okay, and so our combo going off, so they do have a way to destroy it. So they do clear up some space in that lane. They do get their Bucky Barnes to go off, and they have an Okoye, which is going to buff the cards that I draw. So a misplay by them there. They would have been better off just holding it. And so now we have Cable. So we could push this one as it is right now. But do we want to? I think we do Cable, we draw some more of their cards, and hope for something that is high power. I want something over 6 that we can drop in this right lane to push it in our favor. And a Collector is not going to do it. So Goose being a card I haven't seen very often, and it was created by Agent 13, so we can't play through 4, 5, or 6 cost cards in this lane. So I can play something small here. Yeah, I didn't think they had a way to win, but I think, so we could have either played something small here or went with under the impression that they wouldn't be able to match a 14, and being that their hand size was so low, I should have snapped. We drew all of their major resources, but that game doesn't count towards this deck because they were having to utilize the deck. Okay, and so we have what I think is another human player. So Stark Tower is gonna be sneaky. We will be able to drop our Brood on turn 3 or on turn 5, and they're not gonna realize that we're gonna have pretty much a maxed out location to gather that buff from. So I'm excited to kind of sneak that in, because I think they will start committing resources elsewhere, not realizing that we can place so much value in that one lane. And we do have Nakia, so we're going to be able to buff both our Brood and our Mr. Sinister. I think we just pass this turn. I think we wait to drop the Nakia, and then we kind of go from there. I think we have a really good shot at holding this game down. I think it'll be hard for them to kind of counter or match it. And we do get the Nova combo, which I always feel a little bad when we draw it, just because most of the decks I run don't utilize it. But with a token deck, I feel like we need a way to destroy those tokens, and so maybe we should have replaced it for something else. But I feel like if we already are running a Carnage, it makes sense to have it in our deck. So let's go ahead and drop Nakia. Where do we want to drop Nakia? Do we drop him in this right lane? No, we drop him in the far. We drop him in the far right lane. That way, when we drop our Nova, we drop our Carnage, it will take care of those resources for us. So they have an Okoye and a Nakia, so their hand is looking pretty stacked right now. But they're playing in a way that I don't think they're going to be able to win Stark Tower. I think once I drop our Brood, I don't think they have a shot anymore. So if I drop Mr. Sinister, I don't think I play, or I don't think I've utilized, so 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think I'd go ahead and drop the Nova this turn, hoping that we have initiation between these two lanes. Actually, we won't, because we're gonna, maybe if they don't play anything there, we'll have initiation in this lane. Yeah. So we're gonna have 2 of the 3 lanes. Was that created by, no, that's just, do they have a movement deck? So Wind Dagger is when this moves to a location, +2 power for each card your opponent has there. So that makes it where you don't really want to have a maxed out location, because she will get an 8 buff, or yeah, +2 for each card. So an 8 buff every time she moves. So Dagger is really, really good against like these type of decks. So against like wide decks where they're playing a lot of cards quickly. So I think we drop Brood, we drop our Carnage, and hopefully she moves Dagger over here. That way we only have 1 card that she buffs from off of that move. And so once everything resolves, we get the buff. We also get the +2 at the end, so they have Brood as well. I have never seen anyone run Brood in my life. And now that we're running a Brood deck, they have a Brood. So I think Dagger, honestly, they're just trying to increase it. So maybe they just unlocked Dagger and Brood today. But with this being the final turn, we didn't drop 0 last turn, but that's okay. So with this being the last turn, I think what they're going to do is they're going to move Dagger over here. I'm okay if they try and swing that lane, because that's their highest power card. I think we leave everything else as is and hope that they kind of misplay. Oh. So now I'm a little worried. If they don't... So if they don't move anything, and they play a 6-drop here, as in Chavez, they will win this location because they have the Okoye. So do we instead... So this will be 18, this will be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 and 4, so that'd be 15. I think that gives us the win in that location. And so we'll see if they moved anything around. I would think that they would move the Dagger. So they move actually a lot of resources over there. Oh no, and so I didn't anticipate that they would move quite so much. Oh, we end up... I don't know how this resolves. Do we win? Do we lose? We win, right? So that made their Dagger... They probably shouldn't have played the Heimdall, because they won just by shifting everything over, as long as they had a pretty good value card. But then when they shifted everything else, oh my gosh, that was a roller coaster of a finish. Okay, so we have the Hood, we have 0. I don't know if this is a human or not, but I'd like to play against and ideally win against an actual player. Because usually, from what I've found, whenever you first start switching your decks around... Oh no. Yup. It's a good snap, my friend. It's a good snap. Okay, so this would be a good game for us to just pop off and do just phenomenal things. So we should be able to hold 0 until the very last turn. And because 6 cards are going to cost 1 less. So if we hold him until the last turn, we'll be able to drop him and Chavez at the same time, to be able to get the ability away from Chavez. I want to try and get the Patriots buff out onto the board, but just finding the best way to do that. So, do I even wait for that to happen? Or do I just keep my hand clean? So as it is, whatever I draw next turn, I wouldn't be able to duplicate. And I don't necessarily care to duplicate 0. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just waste it. And turn 6, we want our hand as empty as possible by then. Because they do have, it does have where Mindscape, where we switch hands at the start of turn 6. We will still draw our Chavez, but it makes it a little bit more difficult. You want to empty your hand as much as possible before that point. And so we do draw into a Nova, which is really, really good. It's really fortunate for us. And then we have our of course, double Patriot, and then our double Mr. Sinister. A Nakia would be welcomed here, but no, we draw Brood. So I think right now I don't have that many tokens that that are gonna get buffed up from this, but I think I'm gonna stick with our original plan. I want to see the Patriot just really pop off and really turn a lane for us. It may end up being that it doesn't perform as well as we would like. It is a really kind of difficult card, I think, to use. And here we did draw, okay, so that is interesting. We did draw our Carnage, so do we want to drop our Brood here? No. So we only have 3 left after dropping these things. So I think we go ahead and do the combo. I would have liked to drop Brood before doing the combo, but I don't feel confident in that. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I don't feel confident that we'd be able to make it one more turn. And that's that. Okay, that's Captain Marvel, which is a card that I really like. It's a pretty low power card for 5 cost, but its ability is so unique. It switches the lanes to move towards a place that you win, if it can, and so it's really unique. I really enjoy that card. And oh no, we switch hands. So what did we give them? We gave them a Patriot, we gave them a Brood, we gave them Mr. Sinister. We didn't give them like a whole lot, I don't think. Did we? We dropped our Nova combo ahead of time. So he would be able to, even if he got Captain America Chavez, he would not be able to push this lane. We wouldn't get much value out of it out of the left. This is our only shot, is if we can double up the power here, which he knows what we have. And so if he drops some high power here, so with a Brood being 2, 4, 6, potentially 12, maybe he doesn't have a Nova. What could he have? I think we're okay here. Unless he top decked into something really, really good. I'm gonna snap back. This may be an 8 cube loss. So Talkwin, we will see. And so just one card, which is good. Is that going to be like a Chavez? Or do you have something bigger? So you do have Chavez, which puts you at 22. It is not enough. You knew that you gave me the Iron Man. So you had me really, really scared. So that was a very close game. Being that we're going up against a pretty, it's an interesting build. I haven't seen a Devil Dino deck use Jubilee and Captain Marvel and Okoye. So it was really interesting to see. But overall, we were able to pull it out. He had me really scared whenever he snapped on the final turn, knowing that he gave us an Iron Man. So had he drawn like a Hulk, which just has 1 additional power, that wouldn't have done it. It would have had to been something big, like a Magneto or something crazy, which would have been really unlikely on that last turn. But that is going to be the last game that I'm going to play with this deck today. Overall, I think that it feels a lot more solid than it should. Going into this, I think specifically, or I quote, I said that I would probably never use Patriot, but he turned out he wasn't. I don't think he is what turned the games. I think he is a good support for the rest of the things that we have going on. So I think having a buffed Brood is really, really strong, especially if you can get a Nova combo off on it. Because if you have 4 duplicated with just 1 of the buffs, not even both, then you get 12 power. You can drop something else on top of it into that lane. You can hold up against some really powerful cards, and you don't have to worry about like a Shang-Chi because they're not powerful enough to get targeted by the Shang-Chi. But overall, it was really fun deck to play. It was really interesting, and I had fun kind of crafting the deck and then piloting it kind of live without the pre-testing, without the kind of teching to make it, just the perfect deck that we could. But I think overall we had a pretty good first iteration. I'm sure there are cards that we could switch out, but for just pulling a card, creating a deck right off the bat, and then running with it, I think we did fairly well. We ended up climbing like three ranks because we dropped quite a few, testing out some different deck ideas. I really wanted to make like a discard deck work, or a junk deck where we blast their board with rocks and other garbage, which is fun when it works, but it's rather inconsistent. But some ideas that I kind of have going on in my head and that I'm trying to test out to make work. And as we pull specific cards, I think a lot more of these decks will become possible and will become a lot more consistent and a lot more powerful. But overall, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you thought. If you liked the structure where we pull the cards that we unlock for that day and we draft a deck around those, let me know. It's something that I can continue to do, and I think it'll make it kind of fun and exciting for just a completely new archetype of deck that we maybe wouldn't normally feature. So Patriot is something I didn't think I would ever make a video on. Brood, same thing. But we were able to make them work together. It's kind of lucky that we pulled both today because they partnered fairly well. I don't know that I'm completely sold on Patriot. I think we may be better off with something else that is a little bit more consistent. Patriot's pretty high cost for a 1 power. So with other 3 cost cards, you can get, let's say, a Devil Dinosaur. So you can get 12. So to make up the 11 power difference for dropping Patriot, you're going to have to impact 6 cards, 5 cards, 5.5 cards, which is a lot of token cards. Because with Brood, you get 2. With Mr. Sinister, you get 1. It becomes really, really difficult, and it's not really, I don't think, really worth that value. Now, Brood into a Carnage, a Nova Carnage is really unstoppable, especially when you have a Swarm type deck that already generates its own buffs in and of itself. So overall, really fun deck. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.